Hey buddy, you should find some order in this chaotic world and hit like and subscribe. I guarantee you will like it. Most people think reasoning is chaos, and I do not blame them. How many people are ever introduced to the subtle science and exact art of logic? Without knowledge of the nuts and bolts of reasoning, it can all just look like a mess of claims and a jumble of opinions. It can all just look like a street fight where anything goes. Well, I am here to tell you, my inquisitive friend, that such a view is mistaken. All reasoning has patterns. All reasoning has structure. Sometimes that structure is good, and sometimes it is as bad as the advice that you will get from Nervous Pete if you ask him about anything at all. The thing is, unless you understand the structures and patterns of reasoning, you will soon be joining Emmett Yale Memphis and be singing the blues. Now, I do not want to see you singing the blues, unless, of course, you very much enjoy the blues, as I do. So, today, I want to summarize what we have looked at so far and then take a look at the road ahead. I am, after all, a logician, and this is what a good logician does. You can think of critical thinking and argument analysis as a kind of map. A map tells you how to go to get to your desired destination. As logic detectives, our desired destination is good reasoning. And just as there are several roads you can take if you want to travel to another city, so too are there several roads on the map of argument analysis. Our critical thinking map is like a geographical map in another way. When you consult the map in order to plan a trip to, say, Logic Lane in Oxford, England, in order to plan such a trip, you need to identify a route to get there, and you usually have options. Most of us will identify our route before we leave and just follow directions. But you could, if you so desired, simply head to the city nearest to you that is in the direction of Logic Lane. And once you have arrived at that city, you could then look at your map and find the next nearest city that is in the direction of Logic Lane, and so on. Eventually, you would arrive at your destination simply by taking each step in turn. There are a number of technical names for this sort of procedure in which we just take one step at a time, hoping that we will reach our goal eventually. It is somewhat like greedy rooting or hill climbing strategies in computers and mathematical graph theory, but it is probably best described as successive refinement through branching decisions. Is that too much of a mouthful? Then let's just call it decision tree traversal. That is, another way to think about critical thinking and argument analysis is in terms of a decision tree. What is a decision tree, you ask? I have said it before, and I am sure that I will say it again. You ask the best questions, my attentive student. Let me try to define the term decision tree. It is important that you understand it, because we are going to work with the idea quite a bit in future videos. Here is the definition. A decision tree is a branching structure used to guide reasoning, classification, or decision-making by breaking a problem into a sequence of smaller choices. You do not like that definition. I know. It is a bit dense. Let me give a more formal definition. Perhaps that will help. A decision tree is a hierarchical model in which each internal node represents a decision or test. Each branch represents a possible outcome of that decision. And each terminal node represents a conclusion, classification, or action. Okay, I know, we have been through this before. You want to see an example? I will give you the best example that exists on Earth, because I like you, my friend. Here is the basic decision tree for critical thinking as we have so far developed it. We can say that such a structure is made up of nodes and branches. The nodes are the questions we ask or the tests we make, while the branches are the possible answers or outcomes. We could even describe terminal nodes as leaves, and these would be the final assessments we would have of the arguments under analysis. Now, I should point out to you that decision trees are used in many fields, and not just in critical thinking and argument analysis. These other fields include computer science, algorithms, machine learning, statistics, classification and prediction, medicine, diagnostic protocols, business, risk analysis and planning, and law. From this fact, you may infer that decision trees are very powerful things indeed, and well worth learning more about. And if this is what you are thinking, I concur with your assessment, my wise and learned friend. So, let me say just a few more things about decision trees in general, and then we will look more closely at the critical thinking argument analysis decision tree, as we have so far developed it. What makes a decision tree distinctive is that it structures reasoning as a sequence of branching decisions, where each answer determines the next question to ask. And this, my friend, describes the process of critical thinking to a T. I often joke that the whole point of logic is to reduce it to a mechanical process, so we do not actually have to think about things. We can just run through the process and crank out answers the way that Joe cranks out fresh coffee at the Goose Bar. Of course, the key to all decision trees is to get the tree right. If you are a criminal lawyer and you are using a bad decision tree, then you may get the wrong answer, and the worthy citizen you are representing may become upset. Much of what aspiring law students learn in law school is nothing more than such decision trees. But in my own experience, I have discovered that law professors rarely teach the material explicitly as a step-by-step process, or do so only minimally. So if you find yourself in training for the law, I would be most pleased if you would remember to try to set out what you learn in terms of decision trees. Perhaps the same would be effective in the study of medicine and other fields. You will have to discover that on your own, however, but I am fully confident in your ability to do so, my friend. So let us look again at the critical thinking argument analysis decision tree. At each step, you ask a question. The answer sends you down one path or another. Follow the right path, and you end up with a clear judgment. Follow the wrong one, and you get lost. We always start with the first question because every case begins the same way. You look at a passage, a statement, a speech, something someone said down at the Goose Bar, and you ask the first question, the most important question. Is it an argument? If the answer is no, you walk away. That is it. No argument, no case, no inference claim, no investigation. You do not analyze a grocery list. You do not evaluate a weather report. You do not interrogate a man for saying he prefers vanilla over chocolate. As a logic detective, if it is not an argument, you do not care. But if the answer is yes, if it is an argument, now you have something. Now the case is open. And you move to the next question. Is the argument deductive or inductive? That is the first important fork in the road. Two paths, two kinds of reasoning, two different ways the case can unfold, because we must use different techniques of analysis for deductive and inductive arguments. But let us continue down the path, in this case, the deductive path. If the argument is deductive, you know what that means. The author is claiming certainty. They are saying, if my premises are true, the conclusion must be true. That is a bold claim, and bold claims require careful scrutiny. So you ask the next question. Is it valid? Does the form of the argument guarantee the conclusion? If the premises were true, would the conclusion have to be true? This is another fork in the road. If the answer is no, the case is closed. It is invalid. And if it is invalid, that means that it is also unsound. Because to be sound, a deductive argument must be valid and have all true premises. But what if it is valid? Then you take the other path of the fork in the road and you move on. If the argument is valid, then you are not done. Not yet. You ask one more question. Are all the premises true? Now we are no longer talking about form. We are talking about reality, about facts, about whether the evidence holds up. If even one premise is false, the argument collapses and is unsound, because to be sound, An argument must be valid and have all true premises. But if all the premises are true, then you have something rare, something beautiful. You have a sound deductive argument. What makes it sound? It is sound because it has valid form and also has all true premises. And sound arguments are very special things because the conclusion of a sound argument must be true. Guaranteed. Case closed. Now I must ask you to rewind and return nearly to the top of the decision tree, because it might be the case that the argument you wish to analyze is not deductive. It might be inductive. So now let us follow the inductive path again. Suppose the argument is not deductive. Suppose it is inductive. Now the author is making a different claim. Not a claim of certainty, but one of probability. They are saying, if my premises are true, the conclusion is probably true. A softer claim, but still one that needs to be tested. So we must ask questions of it that are appropriate for inductive arguments. And the first question we must ask is it strong? Do the premises actually support the conclusion? Do they make it more likely? If the answer is no, then it is a weak inductive argument. And because it is weak, it is uncogent. Because a cogent inductive argument must be strong and have all true premises. So, case closed. You move on. But if the argument is strong, then once again, you are not finished. You now must ask, are all of the premises true? You will notice that we asked the same question of deductive arguments at the same point. This is because even a strong argument cannot survive false premises. If the premises are not true, the argument fails and is uncogent, because a cogent inductive argument must be strong and have all true premises. But what if the argument is strong and has all true premises? In that case, we have a cogent inductive argument. Again, as I said, a cogent inductive argument is strong and has all true premises, and a cogent inductive argument is a special thing because it tells you that the conclusion is probably true. This is the best kind of inductive argument you can get. Not certain, but reliable. So, here is our whole tree again. Now it should make easy sense to your fine logical detective's brain. Just follow the steps, and you will be analyzing arguments quicker than your hard-earned money will disappear in Big Ear Benny's float and crap game. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, Verity, this seems too simple. And you would be right. It is simple for now. This is the beginner's map, the version we use when we are just learning the streets. Later, we will add complications, more branches, more questions, more subtle distinctions. But you do not start with the whole city. You start with a few streets you can trust. So pay attention and learn this basic structure. For without a structure like this, reasoning becomes guesswork. You jump from one idea to another. You make judgments without a method. You rely on instinct instead of analysis. And that is how mistakes happen. Big ones. The kind that get repeated. The kind that spread. The kind that no one catches until it is too late. Every case starts here. Every investigation. Every attempt to figure out what someone is really saying. You follow the tree. Step by step. No shortcuts, no guessing. Just questions and answers. The big city is complicated, but reasoning does not have to be. If you have the right map, if you ask the right questions, if you follow the path, you can make sense of almost anything. And when the time comes, when the arguments get trickier, when the cases get harder, we will expand the tree, add new branches, new paths, new ways to get to the truth. But for now, I am confident that as brilliant logic detectives, you will make good use of what you have learned here.
This world coming busted like a wagon with one wheel gone. New trouble every morning, same old trouble rolling on. I seen the rain talk crazy keep my mind in order, I can put the pieces back in line. Modus ponens is still valid, validity still holds true. When I think about logical entailment, I am no longer blue. Logic brings order. Logic brings order. When the whole world scatters, logic. Logic brings order. Keep it straight. Logic brings order. I watch folks chase their worry like a dog runs after smoke. They grab it